Yeah, I walk in the room, make the ceiling shake. Gold hoops, fresh fade, got that big boss cake. Never waited on a hand, I'm in my own lane. Told them put some respect when they say my name.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of They Tried It. I'm your host, Lindiwe, aka The Couch Coach. And as always, feel free to hit that little subscribe button. Don't forget that you can find us on all streaming podcast platforms, okay? And you can follow me at Lindiwe_speaks and, of course, They Tried It show on IG. And with that, we're going to be talking to someone lovely today. She's been a corporate America baddie for a long time. Okay. Peggy Bean, introduce yourself.
Well, hello, everyone. Corporate baddie. I kind of call it corporate survivor. Let's see. I don't know if I should start from the beginning. I think that I've always had a love, first and foremost, for advertising. And that's kind of where my story kind of begins.
Yeah.
Was always fascinated about these commercials, these radio messages that would incite people to buy. So with that, aimlessly along, not really knowing what it is that I wanted to do, except that didn't know how to get into it. I always told my mom, always been fascinated about that. And so it started off with this ad that she saw in Essence magazine that the 4As offered internship programs for advertising, people who were interested in advertising and marketing. And my mother, who only had a high school education, said, is this what you're interested in? And I said, yeah. She's like, go for it. And, not really being afraid of any challenge, I did, not knowing the enormity and that this was nationwide. I was chosen as one of the 23 cohorts and was part of the minority advertising internship program. So that was kind of the beginning of it all, of me getting into corporate America. Yeah. And I definitely saw that there are certain ways you had to navigate, that there was an ecosystem. And so from there, I just delved into it, started selling advertising when I got to college. Didn't know what to do with that, but I just had that enthusiasm and not really know how. And it led to, after graduation, I've worked at, Black Enterprise, Jet, Ebony, Essence, American Legacy. There was even a Black Golf magazine that I worked for. So I was really immersed in publishing, then had that wonderful opportunity at Nickelodeon. That's when the creativity really started, integrated, marketing, where it was just, oh, hey, our magazine can expose you to these people. Again, that whole thing of control and messaging. And it kind of stayed with me. And then it delved into D&I consultation. It kind of morphed into other things, but it still stayed firmly in that corporate world.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that with the path of getting into an organization like the 4As was really a signal to you, or a signal boost that maybe your education didn't provide, right? Because a lot of times as Black people, as Black women, as people of color, the pathway to even getting into any door is oftentimes education.
It's not only education, it's influence, and it's the access. You have to know the people, you have to know the gatekeepers, you have to know the people who give you access. I was successful and I didn't know anybody. And I think to a certain extent, it did impact my career, because I didn't get that person to show me the nuances. Oh, when you get into this role, this is what you need to do. When you get into this office, you need to observe before jumping in. It's not all about being the most successful, but it's being the most crafty and aligning yourself with the right person. These were all the missing pieces throughout my career. I just lucked up through God's grace. I'm going to tell you. Yeah. Because I stand in front of you today. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't know the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. I learned that only, I would say, 7 years ago. And I was like, I didn't have any of that. I lucked up, my trajectory would have been, I think, either faster or higher had I had that sponsor, that person in the room that said, hire this person. She has the wherewithal. She might not know all of the job, but she is good for it. I didn't have that person, that champion. I had mentors who said, Peggy, you're smart. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. So whenever I do get a chance, while I'm not a gatekeeper, when I meet with someone younger, I immediately tell them, when you're in a corporate space, or maybe even externally, try to find somebody that can help you get your next job, or your next opportunity. See, I didn't have that. I've kind of had to kind of self-talk myself. And even today, I have many friends who are like, Peggy, you're just so smart. You
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And while that is absolutely wonderful, it doesn't open doors.
No, no. I think with even just that statement, right? A lot of times we talk a bit about, okay, there's a difference between being intelligent. There's a difference between being smart. Sometimes one person is one thing. Sometimes they can be intelligent and smart. You know, intelligence is what you're born with. Smart can grow over, how smart you are grows over the years of experience and working and traveling and meeting different people and being in different communities and reading different books. It's a lot of informal street smart training, common sense. All of those things are being developed. Veering into, you know, past those formative years into corporate America, what were some of the things that were so surprising to you? Like when you first got in, I would say maybe within that first 5 to 10 year period, what was super surprising to you? And did you feel like you were trained, right? Did you have enough training in, to your point, how to move, how to navigate, how to talk to people, what's the best way to communicate, code switching, etc.?
I think the biggest surprise for me, since I didn't have any formal training and I kind of fell into jobs, was the importance of code switching. The importance of knowing that I could not be my unapologetic self, which is a shame. I had to quell that. And that was what I learned. And I said, oh my God, how do I do that? How do I be my authentic self? What happened was I was able to do that externally with my clients. Like I could be Peggy, right? But internally, I could not. Yeah. And I had to, and it was hard because that was a lesson that, how do I become this bot, for a sense of the word, to make this person happy, to make this person feel less insecure?
Isn't that the travesty of having to go to work? That you're not focused on your job and your work. You're now focused on making other people feel comfortable. Absolutely. So that you can now stay out of harm's way. Exactly. And that takes more energy than it should, because you're not there to, in real life, like what we've learned, I imagine, over these last few decades, as we continue to empower ourselves as women, as people of color, and especially as Black women, is that our job is not to make somebody else feel comfortable. Now, I'm sure somebody could argue me on that, because in and of itself, you get into corporate America, you're trying to rise in the ranks, you're trying to get the bag, as they say, you're trying to make sure you have your benefits, you're taking care of your family, et cetera, et cetera. But on the flip side of that, is there some way for us to find balance in that? And have you learned any of those little keys that have helped you over the years?
Well, I think every day before going into work, I would prep myself with prayer.
Yeah.
Because I am a very type A person. I'm assertive. It's been called ambitious. It's been called aggressive. And I had to kind of talk to myself to basically to say, okay, Peggy, you're going into battle. You need to choose your wars wisely. You cannot answer or have a response to everything, but you have to cleverly do that in such a way that your job will not be on the line. I literally to myself every day, because I was able to, you know, after so many years, to find and know who were the insecure ones, because those are the ones that are problematic. And I never in the stretch of my imagination thought that I would be working for somebody that would be insecure. I was like, oh, they know so much more than me. And, you know.
And you didn't want their job. That was the other thing.
And I didn't even want their job. I just wanted to do well, because I was that little girl from the Bronx that like, I'm doing this. And I wasn't thinking it beyond, okay, let me elevate my career to be a vice president, president. I just wanted to do the job well and soak in all the wonderful information and knowledge that I was gaining while being in that role. And then as it transitioned to sales, to really elevate and help my clients do well, to make them look good. That would be one of the things I would always say before meeting someone. I am here to make you look good.
Right.
That was it. And so I've had to make that balance. I had to say, well, at least there's some aspect of my work that would allow me to be me.
Yeah.
And that balance helped because of the rigidity of the corporate, you know, culture. And you know.
I mean, it's a great call out around waking up in the mornings, or even just at the right before the week starts, to have a mindset of this is going to be a good week. This is how I'm going to handle myself. And I don't have control over what other people are thinking or doing. Exactly. At the end of the day, does that help internally? Sure. Does it allow you to control other people's actions? No. But it's the best thing that you can do for yourself. And I love that call out that you would pray. For some people it's prayer. Sometimes it's prayer and meditation, right? All of these things are super, super helpful when you're going into these workspaces that are not typically set up for people that look like us, and undoubtedly for women just in general. Is there, when you think about your career, you think about the functions that you've operated in, whether it was in HR, marketing, storytelling, whatever that thing has been. Is there one adversity or challenge that sticks out to you? Who was the bad actor? What was the thing that was happening to you, and how did you handle yourself?
Okay, I'll talk about a situation. I won't name the company.
Oh, no, don't do it.
But I was in that phase of my life where I kept my nose down and I did my work.
Yeah.
Volume, quality, quality, volume. Only to find out I had gotten a call from a client of mine and said, hey, your boss is calling around asking, how do we treat you? I think you need to get yourself together because something is happening.
Okay.
And I said, what? I was naive. And I'm like, why would she be asking about me? And he said, I think she's trying to get rid of you. And I said, what? So I knew what I felt, that I could not address this woman who was a bully. And I said, well, maybe I'll try to find another job.
Now let's hold it right there. When you identified that the person was a bully, what were some of the characteristics the person was exhibiting before that? Because before you got that call from the client, what were some of the behaviors that you noticed about this woman?
Just unadulterated aggression and meanness. Anything you would say, it wouldn't be, oh no, that's in terms of a course correction. No, that's not. Why would you come up with something like that?
Okay.
In front of the team.
Oh, okay.
And I said, is this corporate America? And
is it Game of Thrones? Where are we?
What's going on? So unfortunately, I never addressed her directly. I stayed quiet. I just took it on. And then so it was building up. And the Bronx side of me said, girl, you out the street, but oh my God, I'm just so happy to be in this corporate space was like, no, don't do this. So I had an internal fight with myself. And so what I did was I would talk to my peers. How can I deal with this? And they were all scared too. Like, oh my God, we see what she's doing to you.
Yeah.
I even tried, which was the worst thing in the world. I went to HR and said, she's doing this, and HR just listened. This is before I understood that HR is a tool for the company to protect the company. I thought there was some level of advocacy for me. I even went to the head of the company. Like, I don't know what to do. I see this happening. I see this tornado coming toward me, and I don't know how to stop it. And even the president, because this was a successful manager bringing in lots of money, all that was said was, I'm sorry, Peggy. So I knew, because I went through and then I went to my direct report and I said, help me. Like, I feel like I'm being attacked and I have nothing to protect myself. And then my direct report was like, yeah, she's trying to fire you.
So you went to the proper chain of people.
I did.
You went through each person, which a lot of times in corporate America, or just in any work setting, it doesn't even matter if it's corporate America, whether it could be on the retail side, it could be on the fast food chain side. You went to the proper people because typically there are steps that we all have to take when something is going awry. And every single person sounded like they were kind of passing the buck and didn't really know how to handle the situation, or they didn't want to handle the situation.
They didn't.
Which adds more volume to you.
Right.
In and of itself.
Yeah.
What was the next thing?
Feeling.
I bet. And I know I've experienced that feeling. When you finally got to, I want to say the direct, and this individual said, yeah, she's pretty much trying to fire you. What was the next thing that you did?
The next thing I did, I made sure that I had everything documented. I even went to an employment lawyer and they basically said, well, this is all hearsay. It's not a true case. because she's saying things and she's she's talking to other people. There's nothing documented.
Okay.
And again, I was still naive and new. And so I didn't understand. I was like, wow, I have nowhere else to go. So I did what anybody else would do. I just started looking for another opportunity. Unfortunately.
Did you feel like that was the only lane that you had, especially because you went to the employment attorney at the time? That attorney said, okay, these things are hearsay, right? Was there an opportunity for you to file a formal complaint internally in the company outside of talking to the individuals that you spoke with?
Unfortunately, it was too small of an organization. You can kind of consider it as a mom and pop. So one person in HR, there were no regulations, there were no rules or policies that were absolutely followed. I think that person was there just to be there, but not actually in policy, not to even create a situation where there could have been a discussion. And there was nowhere for me to say, move out of that department into another department. It was just way too small. The only option was to leave, unfortunately. And I eventually, what I did was I handed in my 2 weeks notice because it became very antagonistic.
Yeah.
And literally my alter ego said, you're going to punch her in her face the next time she says something crazy. And I felt like it was becoming very hard to hold back my alter ego.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, listen, Peggy, sometimes the intrusive thoughts, they jump out of nowhere. Right. And I was
remiss in, Lindiwe, that I did not have a sponsor. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have that ear for somebody to help me with direction. So I decided to flee.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. And that is something that happens. Like this part around, it was a smaller type of ecosystem, right?
Yes.
And so there wasn't anything formal in place.
No.
And so there are these other dynamics at play when it's not a larger company or a larger corporation or agency or what have you. And you are sometimes out here kind of trying to figure it out all by yourself. You know, you damn near have to play true detective, fireman, all of these things at the same time while you're trying to save yourself.
That's a lot of pressure for anyone to have. And I know you had asked me earlier about my mantra. What I just kept saying to myself is keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. I threw the blinders on. Yeah. That I knew what was going on, but I had to save myself. Right?
Do you remember the feeling that you had in that moment when you made that decision?
It was, I was scared, but I was brave.
Oh, say it again. You were scared, but you were what?
I was brave.
Yes.
I knew with all of my clientele, and thank God, I still talk to these people. And these are people that I've worked with as clients over 15, 20 years.
Wow.
I still talk to them. Wow. They call me and say, girl, you were amazing there. I said, I was? I love you. I mean, that is what has sustained me throughout my career. These people who I had worked with as my clients, they were the ones cheering me on. You'll find something, Peggy. I will vouch for you. Don't worry about it. And, I hate to say this was before the time of LinkedIn. There were headhunters. So I knew I had that support. So I went by faith, right?
Wow.
I was brave and I went by faith. I was like, you know what, God, my time here is probably done. I have no idea what my next step is, but I am going to move forward and be brave about it. And so that kind of sums up what I did. I wish I would have known more, had been more mature to have done more. I should not have stopped at that one employment lawyer. I should have went to several, to one, and then to be disappointed.
Yes, I think when we're in these situations of whether it's something that's this aggression or adversity or challenge that's happening, whether it's in a small imprint or a larger imprint of a company, a lot of times when we are searching for those attorneys, those advisors, those people that should know the legalities of what is possible, we do have to kind of filtrate, very much like a doctor, right? We have to find get a second opinion and a third opinion,
And a third,
etc.
maybe even a
Right?
fourth.
You got to keep a Rolodex of possibilities when you're trying to fight for yourself and still be brave and still show up for yourself and unburden yourself from these shenanigans and bad behavior and non-psychologically safe environments. Because again, this person was creating a toxic environment in and of itself.
The epitome of toxicity.
Right. And I like the fact that you called out that you have to be brave. One of the things that I often mention through a lot of these episodes of interviewing all of these amazing folks is that your courage. Courage is, if we put it on a meter, right? Some sort of scale from 1 to 10. There are people who are only at a 3 or 4. Maybe they're willing to file something anonymously. Maybe they're willing to talk to that mentor or sponsor to get that advice. But then you have people who are over here on the 8 or 9 side, willing to activate, willing to file that complaint internally, externally, attorney, and go as far as the people that are causing the problem or the harm are willing to go, right? But I want to remind people that whatever your level of activation is within that scaling, at least activate and continue to move and not feel like you're stuck because you're not stuck. There are people all around you who are willing to speak to you. And I think that point that you brought up about all those clients from before, remembering, right? That the acknowledgement, giving you that acknowledgement, and even just a refresher of reminding you that, no, there was nothing wrong with you. How important is the acknowledgement as you move forward and past that situation?
So incredibly important. Oh my gosh. It did so much for me, because what happens is that is a ding to your ego. You question yourself when somebody's coming after you so hard. It's like, wow, there must have been something wrong with me. And being that I had the support of people who work with me, they said, no. You're really good at what you do. It really helped me along in my career. It made me feel I didn't know then, but I know now. Yeah. That this woman was just insecure. And I will say this, I'm going to say 5 or 6 years ago, I spoke to her and she apologized to me.
Really?
For how she treated me.
Wow. Okay. Which means that it took her a bit of time to have the realization herself. That self-awareness, it'll come for you if you're not paying attention.
And self-awareness, something must have happened in her life that made her think about me.
Yes. That allowed her to connect her behavior. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. And here, and like I said, I was so naive. I think the Peggy now would have told the Peggy then, go in her office and talk to her and kind of do some surgery and say, what's going on with what I'm doing? How can I make myself better? Or what is going on about me that you feel that you need to be so aggressive? Like, I should have, I would have sat down in the office with her to say, okay, I see that there is an issue. I know that you're calling my clients.
Yeah.
What is it that is triggering you? Because I want to make sure we work through this, because this is a working situation and we can work through. Nothing is insurmountable. I would have done that then, but I was too afraid of this woman. I was intimidated, afraid, all the things.
And I think calling those things out again, it's a scale of growth that you have started at a certain point where you didn't know certain things. You didn't know that your voice was stronger than what it was. Exactly. You didn't know that emotional intelligence was going to play a role in your future self, right? Yeah. The term in and of itself is not new. However, in corporate spaces or in workspaces, it's only been within the past 10 to 12 years where people within workspaces have started to kind of cling to the word. Still not quite understanding it fully.
Not really.
They haven't really, understood it in their personal lives, which is, it should be a part of your growth as a human. But I do like this idea and the story of you going from one space to now understanding where you are right now, that you not only would speak up in a situation that if it arose again, but before you spoke up and went to an attorney and filed that complaint, you would actually take the opportunity to talk to the individual.
And I would have taken them outside of the work environment. Can we have coffee?
Yes.
You know, I
Yeah.
would have done that. I would have
Mhm.
tried to kind of touch the human side of this person to find out why they were just so mean to me.
Which can be useful. There's a lot of people who, when you sit down and talk to them, it's like, oh, there's something going on with you that doesn't have anything to do with me.
Which would have allowed a more nimble navigation of
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah. Now there are some situations
I
that we
know.
all know where it don't matter what kind of coffee, green tea.
That's true. But I would have tried
yeah,
though. I would have made an attempt. And if that
at
person
least
said
attempt.
no,
Yeah. I like that. I think that speaks to the benefit of the doubt. You really want to understand what's going on with the person while we balance the fact that we don't want to take on the burden of their behavior either. Like, we're not responsible for how someone is treating us in terms of their bad behavior. And a lot of times as women, but especially as Black women, it's almost as if we do this thing where it's like, oh, I do want to understand what's going on with her. Why is she like this with me? But it's like, those are trauma responses. Because we're so used to taking on all of these things in our everyday lives. And now this is another thing that we have to solve for, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's certainly, knowledge, maturity goes a long way. So whenever I have met that workplace bully, I have now surgically analyzed, I've cut different aspects of their personality and said, they were not popular as a kid. They were that nerd that the only thing that got them through were their books because socially they weren't accepted. So I always approach somebody differently. When I see that they're a bully, I says, hey, I make sure you count, you matter. I do that purposefully. I'll do things that demonstrate that. And it kind of takes them off. At my last job, because at every job there's a bully. Let's acknowledge that.
Let's
a direct report to it or not. And I was just like, hey, so how did you feel about that? I know you're going through a divorce. I know your kids are what's happening in your world? And you can see the
surprise of, oh, there's an interest in me. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what is going on. Everybody wants to feel like they are acknowledged, period. Even just walking by and saying hello to someone could change their whole day. So the fact that you are recognizing and paying attention, using your own self-awareness to better understand people, right? I always say that to folks, like, when you are self-aware and know where you are and you've done the work on yourself, it's easier to call out the things in other people and better understand them as well. What are you looking forward to now? You've had some pivots, you've had some shifts in your career. What are you most looking forward to now?
I'm looking forward to truly tapping into my creativity and kind of taking a journey that might be a little bit different from the corporate space. I would love to either start my own consulting advisory company, which would kind of still have me on a peripheral corporate, or just take a whole different jump into a hobby of mine, which is wine. Trying to see what that can do for me. I'm working on, a guidebook, providing a platform for Black-owned wine brands. I'm studying for my level 3 certification in wine with WSET, Wine Spirit Education Trust. I'm now looking at taking the hobbies, things that bring me joy, and leaning into it and seeing where it takes me.
I love that. I love that. Feeding your spirit and your soul and really speaking to the things that allow you to feel alive when you wake up in the morning time.
It wakes you up in the morning.
When it comes to consulting, what would that business be based around? Would it be on the HR side? Would it be marketing? Would it be a little bit of both?
Well, I was thinking, because I did it before in my previous job, I did like a wine tasting. And what I wanted to do to help from a culture and belonging, since you can no longer say DEI right now, is to take wine tasting and make it almost like a team building, session where people who are reluctant to try different things, they used to doing their one thing and they don't do anything else. I want to kind of align that with wine, because
I
there's some
love
people
that.
who are like, I only drink Cabernet Sauvignon, or I'm only a white wine person.
Mhm.
Sometimes that kind of shows you the mindset of individuals in a workplace. No, this
Mhm.
way, nothing else. And I'm not going to adopt what you say, no matter what you say. So I want to be able to create programming around that, and kind of slide in that it is really about getting along with other people. So from
Yeah.
an HR perspective, but using it with wine. So opening up
Yeah.
minds with wine that would allow them to kind of interact and then really flourish and
Mhm.
really be a team player
Mhm.
in a work environment. So that's an idea. I haven't fully fleshed it out, but that's where I see the consulting come from. I am, working on a couple of projects where people need help getting corporate sponsorships. I can do that with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
Probably continue to do that until I can no longer. But I really would love to see where this wine journey is going to take me.
I want to see it too, quite honestly. I love the idea of
I want to have fun.
I love the idea of bringing wine into corporate spaces and tying back that idea of true collaboration, not
Through
competition.
collaboration.
And
Yeah.
doing it through this beautiful shared space and setting of drinking delicious wine. Like, you can't really turn that down, quite honestly.
Exactly.
One thing that allows you to look at your future self, what do you want to tell your future self?
I want to tell my future self to enjoy every day,
Mm,
because as someone told me, tomorrow's not promised to us.
mm.
And to be caught up into somebody else's issue and to try to manage around it, to keep your job, to keep your paycheck, that's not a good existence.
Mm, mhm,
That's stress.
mhm,
So I would tell my future self, enjoy and be stress free.
enjoy.
And align yourself with people who are like you.
Mm. Align yourself by building your network and your friend groups and create those ecosystems that allow you to feel like your best self. I love that. I love this interview because it just reminds me of how, when you're making changes in your life, right? And you're looking forward to the thing that brings you a lot of joy, that those things can exist. And a lot of times we don't get to see it in people, right? Especially when you've been in corporate a long time, or you've been in this sector or this industry. It's always good to have examples of people who understand the workspace, but now are really thinking more clearly about their own dreams and their own hopes.
Yes. And I tell everyone in the corporate space that I talk to, please get a hobby.
Yeah.
Because you never know where it's going to take you. And then there's another line that I go by. There's no mistakes. There's only learnings.
Ooh,
So,
there are no mistakes. Mm,
only learnings.
that
That I have lived by.
That's a tattoo right there. There are no mistakes.
It's only
Only
learning.
learning. You better put that on a bumper sticker. Peggy, I have enjoyed you as always. Listen, we got to get this product going.
Yes, I'm working on it.
I have enjoyed you as always. The
Yes.
conversation was rich. The things that I want people to be reminded of through the conversation, that recognizing when you see a bully, understanding those behaviors, building up your confidence to either speak to this person individually, and understanding what your next steps are going to be if you decide to go that route. If you need an attorney, never just go to one. Feel free to talk to several. There's no harm in doing so and finding out what your options truly, truly are. And then digging into all those lessons and applying it to your new self, to your growth version of yourself, to the elevated self. And lastly, going after the things that bring you joy. There are no mistakes, only learnings.
That's
And
it.
with that, I want to thank you, Peggy, for the conversation. As always, I enjoy speaking with you. Okay. And we are going to allow everyone to know how to find you in the description box, of course, but feel free to follow along on Peggy's journey. She's doing some really wonderful things. And I want to thank you all for joining us again for another episode of They Tried It. You know what it is. You know what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast and any project that you may see me on within the next, I don't know, weeks, months, because I'm on the move as well. And with that, enjoy yourselves. Have an amazing week. And happy, happy, happy year to you. Cheers.
Gonna stop. No cosign needed, I've been self-made. If you cut from my cloth, that's designer grade. Level up every